Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. Apologies about the opener. I've just had a whole lot of shit just go down as I was about to come to air, so that's why I'm a minute or so late. You can see here, first of all, apologies that the light's no good because my light just blew about a minute. Oh, hang on, That's all right. We'll get out of that. Yeah, the light just blew about a minute before I was supposed to come on air. Then I had to bring my lights forward, and they're playing up. I knocked this over here. Shit just went everywhere, and then the opener wouldn't work either. So it's been an absolute disaster to get us started, but we'll see how we go. So this lighting's going to be a little bit getting used to, but it is what it is. So, welcome to everyone welcome to everyone that's on the chat as we speak. If you haven't been here before, as it says there, it's Talking Boxing, and put your comment in the chat there, and let's make a good night of it. Even though already, and I've just realised my towel has vanished as well. So I've got no lights, no towel. It's bloody hot in here, and we'll just soldier on anyway. So again, thanks for everyone for tuning in. I'm going to try and bring up the feed at the moment so I can at least see the order of your questions, which again are all over the place. All right. All right. We'll start with Tony. Where are we, Tony? And the other thing too, as well, guys, is obviously a bit happened over the weekend. We had Ryan Garcia beating Mario Barrios. We had Lee Wood beating Josh Warrington, and Shay Keneally this morning. I forgot all about that in my show this morning, the walking boxing, but didn't end well for her either, did it? So I'm just going to find, Tony, your first comment here. All right. We'll start with you. So if this is, just let me know too, guys, if the feed's okay. I've got no idea because the opener didn't even work. I don't even know whether I'm live at the moment, so I'm just going to keep going anyway. At least this recording will be good for Spotify. Shout out to them as well. All right, Tony. Hello, crew. Screencastings were held over the weekend for the movie The Jeff Fennick Story. Any ideas? Who is playing the lead role? No, well, I've seen that's been on the go for a while, Tony. I think it's probably for the last 6 months. I reckon I've seen. I can't remember who's the guy is that's actually doing the whole thing, but I must be friends with him on Facebook or follow him or whatever. And I have seen that he has put out casting calls for the whole crew, and I've got a feeling that Jeff Fennick hasn't actually been cast yet, or has he? Or hasn't. I'm sure. I'm not sure whether I saw that he's actually been cast, but we don't know who he is yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know they've got. I think they had Johnny Lewis and Bill Morty and Satoshi Shingaki, Steve McCrory. I think there was a few of them anyway that had been cast. I think Samart Payakaroon, Azuma Nelson. So there's a lot of people that need to be cast, obviously. And just like the was it the Lionel Rose one a few years ago. I think Damien Membra, who heads up the Hall of Fame committee here in Australia and also is a timekeeper with the Victorian Combat Board, he played Alan Rudkin in the movie back in the day. That was a long time ago, wasn't it? Was it probably 30 years ago, I reckon it was? But no, I don't know who's playing the lead role there, Tony, so I'll keep a lookout for it, mate. All right, I can see there is a question or a comment from Asbot. What do you got there, mate? Hello to you. Hi, lads. Oh, yeah. What's that? Hell yeah, is it? What a disciplined Garcia with power in the right hand, also treating the sport seriously. Well, that's the thing, though, Asbot, isn't it? You just don't know what you're going to get with Ryan Garcia. And I said in my preview that if the Ryan Garcia turns up anywhere near the one that beat Devin Haney, well, Mario Barrios is in a lot of trouble. If the one that turned up to fight Rolly Romero turns up, well, then it gives Mario Barrios a big opportunity to win. But it was just a sensational performance. And I think I was going back and forth a little bit with D-Style this morning about it. And I understand that Mario Barrios is not, let's just say it's not Devin Haney, but he is look, he's a world champion. You can only beat who's put in front of you, I suppose. And yes, it was probably a soft entry into a world title. But geez, how many fighters in history have started with maybe an average type of champion and built their way up? I welcome. I mean, for Ryan Garcia to have the WBC belt, it still is the most prestigious belt. And he's now alongside Ramiro, Haney, and Lewis Crocker, possibly coming up Liam Paro. So it's a good belt to have. It's still a good belt to have, although I'm sure the question is going to come up at some stage. Could he be a target for Zuffa boxing or Zuffa, whatever the hell it's called? I'm going to call it Zuffa boxing. If that's the case, well, he looks to me, I did say on Walking Boxing this morning that he is the prime candidate for Zuffa boxing. And you would think that Dana White would be going all out to get someone like Ryan Garcia on board. So apparently he's still contracted to Oscar De La Hoya, though. I was under the impression that after this fight it was up, but Oscar did say in the interview, might have been either before or after, whatever it was, that he's still under contract. So we'll see. Yeah, and he's treating the sport seriously. But it's amazing what can happen when you treat the sport seriously, mate, isn't it? What's that? It could be a force at 147 at 154. Great fight. Happy for Ryan. Yeah, and I was happy for him as well. He's got the frame to go to 154, hasn't he? He's definitely a good 147 pounder. I was really surprised in the lead up to the fight how small he looked against Mario Barrios, but when the fight actually started, when they were in the ring against each other, I thought it was Ryan Garcia looked the bigger guy. So I don't know whether it was just the TV screen or whatever, but he's a good size welter. It looked like he made the weight pretty comfortably, but probably a bit like Devin Haney. Probably doesn't need to go up. He probably makes 147 pretty comfortably, but if the opportunity arises, if the Boots Ennises and Virgil Ortizes and these types of Sebastian Fundoras, come up and they're available, well, you can't blame him for going up and going after another belt, another challenge. All right. We've got a comment from Richard there. How are you, Richard? I'm just trying to find your comment there. G'day, Lynden and chat. Happy birthday to your wife. Hope Neil is getting better. Thanks very much, Richard. Yeah, it was my wife's birthday today, so happy birthday to her. And Neil, he went for a walk yesterday, but not today. He was okay this morning, but there's still a slight little limp there, so we decided to give him the day off. He's not happy about it. He's filthy, actually. But I've just got to distract him and then sneak out the back door. But you should see the look I get when I walk in the door after I've been just filthy. He just gives me the side eye and not very happy at all, the little fella, but it's for his own good. All right, still with Richard. Ryan Garcia would be a super signing for Zuffa. The bloke has an aura about him, taking away taking away of his technical abilities in the ring, can sell tickets and viewers, this fella. Yeah, well, look, he's an absolute superstar, Richard, Ryan Garcia. And I said again this morning that he has the potential to be the next Oscar De La Hoya. I'm not quite sure. Well, I was going to say I'm not sure he's got the dance partners around, but he probably has. I mean, back when Oscar was fighting, he had Felix Trinidad and Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao and all these guys around him that he could fight. Shane Mosley, of course. Ryan Garcia's got Devin Haney and, as I said before, possibly Liam Paro or Lewis Crocker, Roller Ramiro, Boots, Ortiz. He's got so many challenges there for him. Obviously, the one I did mention was Shakur Stevenson. Maybe Teofimo Lopez, maybe Richardson Hitchens. There's a lot of fights there for Ryan Garcia to prove his legacy. And by the sounds of things, he wants the smoke, as they say. So we'll see. All right. So we've got Naz. How are you there, Naz? Tom's dad, Naz. Surely Zuffa have Ryan. $15 million is a lot for Connor, but a Ryan fight would make it worth it. Dana would be laughing, taking Ben and Garcia off Eddie and Oscar, and then making that fight for a Zuffa belt. Yeah, it's a good call there, Naz. He certainly would. That would be the ultimate one for him, wouldn't it? Taking, it's arguable that Ben is Eddie Hearn's biggest sort of moneymaker, I suppose. That is Anthony Joshua probably, but he's also on the way out as well. So it probably is. Yeah, that would definitely make Dana's day, wouldn't it? To take Connor off Eddie and Garcia off Oscar. It'd be and look, who knows? Maybe Virgil Ortiz could probably throw in there as well, just for the three-peat, wouldn't it? But yeah, he would be laughing. But look, I've been critical of Zuffa just to whether they can actually do it or not. But the fact that they've got Jai and now Conor Benn, you would have to think, and possibly even Alexander Usyk is still in the mix as well. You would have to think that there's a lot of the top line fighters just starting to peer over the fence and say, geez, okay, if those guys are going, maybe it might be worth my while having a chat once my contract's up. And if they get Ryan Garcia, well, I think you could see the dominoes sort of fall after that. But you're right, $15 million is a lot. I'm staggered, though, Naz, that by all accounts, it's for one fight. Now, I don't know whether that's the case. I will be staggered if Zuffa Boxing invested $15 million. I'll get that right. $15 million into a fighter for one fight. You would think that $15 million gets him over to Zuffa and the first fight. Maybe it's a sliding scale, so $15 million is the first fight, and then maybe it comes down after that, and it sort of plateaus depending on who he fights. But it's a lot of money for someone like Conor Benn, who's never fought for a world title, never won a world title. He's big in England, but he's not big in America. I know that's probably going to change now that they're behind him. Probably a little bit like Jai Pattaya, I suppose, going over there as well. But, yeah, it's a big risk because at the end of the day, unlike Jai Pattaya, who can 100% fight, I'm not so sure Conor is a top liner. I think Shakur Stevenson would absolutely play with Conor Benn. The Ryan Garcia fight would be entertaining, but make no mistake about it, Conor Benn is a very limited fighter. I don't think he lays a glove on Devin Haney either. So they've got to match him properly. The Ryan Garcia fight is the one that makes sense. But if Ryan Garcia doesn't want to fight Conor, I think he would look at Shakur and possibly Devin Haney as being bigger fights for him than Conor Benn. Depends, again, who he ends up with, who makes the calls. But his name wasn't mentioned yesterday. And actually, it was a little bit comical, I suppose, to have Conor Benn at ringside. And I think, here we go, this peanut's going to get in the ring afterwards and go at Ryan like he did with Shakur Stevenson. I was almost prepared to turn the TV off if that was going to be the case, but Ryan Garcia did not even mention his name. It was all about Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney. And you would have thought that Conor Benn would have been sitting there front row waiting for the call up, and it never happened. So at the end of the day, I suppose he's not promoted by Golden Boys. So they would have said, hey, mate, you might be able to get up in the ring with the other promoters, but you're not going to get up in the ring on our show. So just go down and sit down. So, yeah, and as I said, in Ryan's speech afterwards, it was all about Shakur Stevenson and maybe a little bit of Devin Haney as well. So, all right, so we're still with... Oh, no, that was Naz then. Let's go back to Tony. Hang on, if I can find your comment there, Tony. I think I've lost your comment there, Tony. Hang on. Sorry about that. Sorry for the hold up here, guys. I'm all over the place tonight. Fair dinkum. All right. Jesus H. Christ, has anyone seen this stupid imbecile sport? Worse than power slap. It's called Run It. And two fellas 10 metres apart, 3, 2, 1, and then they literally run into one another. It's so dangerous. Tony, I didn't think that there could possibly be a more stupid sport than power slap. But this is it. I don't think you can even call it a sport, can you? Is it? I just think it looks like a couple of knuckleheads who should know better just running at each other. And if you haven't seen it, they literally almost start in a bit of a UFC type of thing where they sort of get down on the haunches. They yell, like you said there, 3, 2, 1, and then they bolt at each other, and then they just pretty much run into each other. I think it is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, and that's saying something because I thought power slap was the most ridiculous thing I've seen. I'm just conscious, Tony, or cautious or curious, I suppose the right word is, how does this stuff get sanctioned? Surely the powers that be, I don't know what umbrella it comes under. Is it a combat sport? Or maybe it's not, is it? Because they're just running at each other. There's not actually any blows being exchanged, unlike power slap that would fall under the and the brawling thing that would fall under the combat board or umbrella, you would probably think. But yeah, geez, it's just ridiculous. So, and these aren't just average sized guys. These are big guys. And more often than not, one, sometimes both, ends up out cold. So I just cannot see how that is attractive to anyone. I know we're a bunch of knuckleheads down here in Australia, and we like these types of things. But surely in this day, I don't want to say like I'm going soft or anything like that. But geez, I just don't see how it makes sense at all. At least maybe put some padding on, put some helmets on, whatever. It's almost a little bit, I suppose, like the American football without the pads, isn't it? They just run at each other. But yeah, at least they could do that and give themselves a chance. Can you imagine the head injuries and the brain injuries that could possibly happen from that sport? It is just ridiculous. So anyway, I haven't actually watched it, Tony. I've seen some clips on social media when they popped up, and all I can do is think, geez, this just reminds me of a couple of drunk 18 or 19-year-olds who decide it's a good idea just to charge at each other and see who gets knocked out first. Fair income, but just ridiculous. All right, we got the Big J in the chat. How are you, Big J? What do you got there? All right. While I agree that Ryan Garcia had a good performance yesterday, it was against one of the worst champions in boxing. Barrios couldn't even beat a retired Pacquiao. Yeah, no, it's a good call, Big J. But I think, look, you've got to give Ryan Garcia his respect for the performance he put on. I agree that Barrios couldn't beat Pacquiao, and he's not one of the best champions in boxing. I understand that, but it's not like it was a close fight. Ryan Garcia really did a number on Mario Barrios. I know he was a bit pissed that he didn't actually get Barrios out of there, but there was probably a couple of factors. One, he did reveal he had an injured hand, but two, Barrios is a tough guy. And I know Davis got him out of there, but that was a barrage of punches that got him out of there over duration. And he has proven pretty durable, Barrios, so I'm not that sort of sour on Ryan Garcia that he didn't actually get the knockout. Not every fight has to be a knockout. Ryan Garcia, while he has got really good power, I don't think he's really a devastating puncher. And once I think he had the hand injury, you could see that he sort of pulled back a little bit and went back to his jab and back to the hook. Interestingly, the hook wasn't really the dominating factor, was it? It was that right hand the whole way through. So he didn't seem too distressed after the fight. I haven't seen any pictures or anything to see whether he put his swollen hand up or whatever on social media. But, yeah, I'm not going to degrade his performance, Big J. I mean, he won pretty much every round. I mean, what else is he supposed to do apart from knock the guy out? I just think it was a masterclass, and I think we've got to give him his credit there, Big J. I agree that Barrios isn't exactly, as I said, Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson, but you can only beat who they put in front of you, and it wasn't like he struggled. He won every round, so... All right, still with Big J. So Garcia doesn't deserve any real praise for getting the job done. It was expected, plus not knocking him out after that knockdown is quite concerning considering the power of Ryan's left hand. Yeah, look, the thing is, though, Big J, sometimes in the first round, knockdowns like that can happen. It was a good shot. I don't think even Ryan Garcia expected what happened that did happen. When he nailed him with the right hand, he sort of hurt him, and then the other right hand knocked him down. I was actually in giving Ryan Garcia praise for not going after the knockout with Barrios. Now, when he got up, you could see that Ryan Garcia did rush in, but I think he realised pretty quickly that Barrios wasn't really hurt. Yeah, he's probably maybe a little buzzed, but it was still dangerous. You just don't rush in on those type of guys. If you can see they're really, they're hurt and the legs are a little bit rubbery, well, then you go for it. But Barrios seemed okay, just more a little bit shocked. I think a little bit shell-shocked almost. As boom, he was just caught cold and got up. And I thought Garcia showed a bit of maturity by saying, all right, well, we'll have a bit of a crack. Barrios fought straight back. So I think he did the right thing by actually backing off and just sort of assessing the situation rather than just going for it, leaving himself open. So I've got to probably disagree with you there. I actually thought it showed a little bit of maturity from Ryan Garcia, not just to rush in with the chin up in the air and just start throwing punches from everywhere. It's experience, I think, from Garcia's end. As I said, Big J, I think you're being harsh by not giving him any praise. I mean, he won easy. Apart from knocking him out, I mean, what else do you want him to do? He won every round. So, geez, you're a hard man to please there, Big J. Yeah, I did see with Shea Keneally there. Big J, lost the title day in the States to Danielle Perkins. Shea was KO'd in the 6th by the American. That's probably the end of Shea. Hasn't fought in almost 2 years and gets KO'd. Geez, Big J, you're awfully quick to write people off. I mean, I know she's 31 years old, mate. And she lost one fight. I mean, to say that's it for her, geez. as I said, mate, you're a hard man to please. Yes, she was out of her depth. I will 100% agree that she was way out of her depth. And as our old mate Noonan Boy says at Noonan Boy Promotions, there's levels, and in this case, it was just starkly evident that she was way out of her depth, just way out of her depth, and she was probably 2 or 3 levels below Danielle Perkins. Now, look, it is what it is. I think we can all agree. What was it, a 7th fight? I think it was the sixth fight she had before that did nothing to prepare her for someone like Danielle Perkins or Danielle Perkins. You got to remember, Perkins was also dominated by Clarissa Shields in her last fight, and I've just got a feeling. Look, I don't know the whole team and all that sort of stuff. I've never met Shay Keneally. What it looked like to me, Big J, is that she'd had a lot of very, very soft wins. I mean, the girl she beat for the WBA belt, 18 months ago, whatever it was, should not have been anywhere near a world title fight. Shay, look, she won. There's not like there's a lot of really solid world-class girls like around at that weight, apart from obviously Perkins. But so I think Shay Keneally got a very, very soft title win, and I don't like to say that, but I think it's pretty obvious to everyone. She got a pretty soft world title win, and then came up against a really good fighter and was just badly exposed for not being ready to be at that level. Look, she was game. I mean, that shot she got hit with, I mean, to get up from that, I'm not sure whether her jaw was broken, but the blood coming out, I mean, she had a really bad cut in her mouth. Yeah, not good. But unfortunately, Big J, when you get on the big stage, it's in America, you don't sometimes know that you're not, or sometimes you don't know you're out of your depth until you're out of your depth. And I've just got a feeling those 6 wins or whatever it was that she had in the lead up to this fight, maybe a lot of backslappers, maybe everyone pumping her up, has made her just get a little bit of a false sense of where she's at. And she got a very hard reality check today. I mean, can you imagine if that was Clarissa Shields with her today? I mean, that would have been probably a 1 or 2 round blowout. Not that Clarissa Shields is a big puncher, but again, I mean, you say that Perkins was levels above. Well, Clarissa was probably 3 levels above that. So the whole talk of, Keneally, I did see what was it, an article in the Herald Sun the other day. I'm not sure whether it was carried around Australia, but the big headline that, Shay Keneally could be fighting Clarissa Shields for the undisputed heavyweight championship, and what a big deal that was. Well, sometimes you just gotta chill a little bit. They get way ahead of themselves here in Australia, the media. I think they just like the idea of someone fighting for the undisputed heavyweight championship, and probably had no idea who Clarissa Shields was. But yeah, look. She's not finished by any means, Big J. She's 31 years of age, and I'm sure she'll learn from it. I just think she got as I said, a really harsh reality check today that she's just nowhere that level, and she's got to work towards it. Look, it's really hard here in Australia. It's hard enough if you're at a level or a weight that some of the other elite girls are at, from 118 up to 130, I suppose. There's some really good females in there, probably a little bit lighter actually. Then you go to Desley Robinson above that, who's really developed so well over the journey. But I think pretty sure she's her and her camp have really invested in getting quality sparring, obviously quality fights for her, and she's really gone in leaps and bounds. Shay Keneally hasn't had any type of elite type of fight until today. I mean, even with Desley before she won the world title, she had the fight with Kay Scott, and now they both got 2 titles each. Well, I think she went to New Zealand as well and fought over there. So she had a really good grounding, Desley Robinson, and you can see how far she's come. Shay Keneally, unfortunately, she had 6 very, very, very soft wins, got a false sense of where she was at, and unfortunately learnt the hard way today, mate. So, but she'll be back. Don't write her off. Again, 31 years of age, jeez, with 7 fights under her belt. She'll be back. She'll be back. I just don't know at what level. So, just grab a drink there. All right, we've got a super chat from Andy. How are you there, mate? Alias MAW. Hello, boxing fans. Happy birthday, Tara. Thanks very much, mate. Congratulations to all the recent winners. Sad our Shay Keneally lost, though. Shake my head, it happens. Ryan versus Devon rematch at 147 unification, my first preference. Smash the like button. Thanks very much, mate. I really Appreciate it. So you'd rather see him fight Devon? Well, it's probably got a bit more, obviously a bit more spice to it, hasn't it, Andy? But and it's probably got a lot more, I suppose, intrigue and interest in it. I think the Shakur fight would be probably just as entertaining outside the ring. I've just got a feeling inside the ring. Look, as good as Ryan was yesterday, I still can't see him getting anywhere near Shakur Stevenson, just style-wise. Maybe some people would say, well, Devin Haney and Shakur are similar type of fighters, and look what Ryan did with him. I just think Shakur might be just one step up from Devin Haney, and I just don't think you'll see him. And I never thought I'd see it with Devin Haney, by the way, but he did when they fought. Be a little bit careless and get caught with that left hook so many times. Shakur being a southpaw as well, maybe will negate the left hook as well. So I just see Ryan versus Shakur being a little one-sided, if I'm being honest. But Devin and Ryan has a lot more drama attached to it, does a lot more intrigue. So maybe you're right. Maybe that is the fight they go to. All right, I'm going to go to Polly the Farmer. All right. After the disastrous recent Teofimo cornering, Ryan's dad was sensational. Good game plan to use the right more. Mid-fight told him to go back to left. Yeah, well, I think you're on the money there, Polly. I was of the same opinion during the fight. I thought, geez, how good is Ryan Garcia's dad in the corner? I've always been against fathers being in their son's corner. I just think that they become more cheerleaders rather than trainers. I've never seen a good one. Maybe Floyd Mayweather Sr. is probably the exception. I've never seen a father in the corner that's actually been good. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just sort of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's others, but I was really impressed, Polly. I'm with you. I thought he spoke really well to Ryan. Obviously, he knows him so well, so I knew when to sort of up the ante as far as his voice goes, and then to bring it down. He did during the rounds tell him to sort of calm down, and as you said there, go to the left, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think he deserves a really big pat on the back. Does Ryan Garcia's father? I thought he was fantastic, and was a big reason why. I was going to say a big reason why Ryan Garcia won. Obviously, he had the conditioning and the game plan and the sharpness and all the stuff that happened in training camp. He sort of hit the double home run, didn't he? He sort of had him so well prepared before the fight, and then during the fight was able to communicate with Ryan really, really well. So, yeah, I'm with you there, mate. He deserves credit. All right, still with Polly. Okay, what's that there? Even stopped talking mid-sentence when he sensed in real time that Ryan needed a reminder regarding recovery between rounds and made him concentrate on breathing and relaxing. Yeah, he certainly did, mate. And as I said, definitely deserves a lot of credit. All right. Eminem, how are you there, mate? I'm in the minority that the Conor Bender Zuffa is an inside job, yeah. And Eddie is in on it. Ben makes a bag, then returns to the match room. I guess we'll see what happens after his first Zuffa fight. Yeah, look, you might have even sent it to me, Eminem. I think someone else did as well. Look, I can see why that is maybe a little romantic to think that. I just, yeah. So what I suppose you're getting at is that it's a ruse, I suppose they call it, a ruse against Dana White. I don't know. I mean, him and Dana White seemed pretty close, didn't they? And I just don't see how Dana White, as I said earlier, Dana White would be giving Conor Ben $15 million for one fight and then allow him to be a free agent. He would have options. So that's why I don't think it sort of holds weight. Look, in all the going backwards and forth between the two, and, I mean, regardless of that, I just couldn't see Eddie Hearn saying, hey, let's get Dana White back and we'll send Ben in as like a Trojan horse and milk him for all this money. Then he'll come back to us and it'll all be good. I don't think, even as vocal as they've been against each other, Eddie would resort to that. I just don't think he rates Dana White highly enough to do it, Eminem. I really don't. I just don't think at this stage he sees Dana White as much of a threat. I think he's more focused on what he's doing. And as I said, it's got a bit of a ring to it, but no, I just can't see it. First of all, as I said, there's no way Zuffa's giving Ben $15 million for one fight with then allowing him to go back to Eddie or go to someone else, go to Golden Boy, whatever, Frank Warren, whatever. No, I don't think that's the case. So I might be wrong, but I just think Eddie I don't think he'd lower himself to do something like that because he just doesn't think enough of Dana White, I don't think. Especially too, I will say, Eminem. The other point I was going to make as well is that Eddie, just a couple of days before the announcement, was talking about what Conor Benn was going to do next and the plans they had for him and all this sort of stuff. And all of a sudden, bang, out of nowhere, he signs with Zuffa. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I suppose. Drew. Where's your comment there, mate? What did you say there? I'll get to your... If I can find it. What is it there? All right, Drew. I can understand Ben leaving Hearn due to the money, but he handled the situation dreadfully. Without Hearn, Ben would never have got the deal due to Hearn saving his career. I'm with you there, Drew, and that's why I've been so critical about the whole situation. I've got no problem at all with Conor Benn having the offer given to him by Zuffa. But then it's how you go about it. The first thing would have been to go to Eddie Hearn and say, Eddie, mate, I love you, but this is the what I'm being offered. We saw it with Johnny Fisher. Apparently the same thing happened. I'm not sure. It wasn't with Zuffa, though, was it? It was with Netflix, I think it was. So you would think the professional thing and the courteous thing to do, Drew, would go to Eddie and say, Eddie, mate, hey, what do you reckon? I've just been offered this. What do you reckon? Eddie Hearn should have been absolutely filthy in the first place for having them contact Conor Benn without actually going through him. That would have been the first thing he'd be pissed about, and I'm sure he would have let Dana White know all about it. But then secondly, it would have said to Conor Benn, well, what are your thoughts? And no doubt Conor would have said, well, geez, it's a lot of money. They're not going to give me much choice. I've got to go. As he said 10 times in one of his interviews yesterday, it's all about my kids. I've got to think of my kids. Well, that's great. And then I would have thought Eddie Hearn would have said, all right, well, what do you want me to do about it? And if it would have been, they want you to match it or beat it or whatever it might have been, well, then he can make the call. And if Eddie Hearn couldn't match the offer, I'm sure that he would have said to Conor Benn, hey, mate, I can't match the offer. You're going to have to go. Well, I'm gonna reluctantly let you go. And I don't think there'd be any bad blood between the two because Eddie Hearn knows these guys only get one crack at it. They put their lives on the line every single fight. I think Eddie would have been hurt by the whole thing, but I don't think there'd be any animosity towards Conor Benn if that had played out the way it should have, and that's Ben going to him first. I'm sure they would have hugged it out. Eddie still would have been shattered by the whole thing, but they could have moved on and potentially worked together again down the track. But the way it's worked out now, I can't see in any way that the two would be able to work together going forward, unless Eminem's theory is correct. And you're right there, Drew. He handled it dreadfully. And I think the thing with Eddie, and look, the thing is, Eddie's also got I suppose, on the other hand, I'm sure that is the case now that the sting has gone out of it, that he would know, geez, well, this is just the business we're in. We'll move on. They did say they got 100 other fighters on the go, so I'm sure they'll forget about Conor Benn really quickly. But I can see why Eddie was shattered, but I can also see why Dana White would be like, well, mate, you're a pussy, get over it. But anyway, and you're right there as well, Drew. He did save his career by sticking by him when everyone abandoned Conor Benn. No one wanted a piece of him at all. He was done, and Eddie stood by him, copped a lot of criticism about it, and stuck by him. And this is what you get. But it is boxing, as we say. Eminem had a feeling Shea Keneally was the Shea Keneally fight was going to go the way it did today. Yeah, I was sort of hoping Eminem. Look, I saw the Perkins fight with Clarissa Shields. Was it a year or two ago? Whenever it was, and I thought she's been inactive since then. It might have been a year, 18 months, whatever it's been. So I thought, although Shea's been even more inactive, I suppose, which sort of leveled it up. But I watched her against Clarissa Shields. And I thought, yeah, she's not much chop. I didn't think Perkins, but she made Shea Keneally look very ordinary today, didn't she? I mean, Shea was tough. As I said before, like that shot she got hit with in the last round, I mean, she should take a lot of pride out of the event, but unfortunately, as I said before, she just found out the hard way that she's not at that level. Not yet anyway. So, yeah, not good, Eminem. What do we got there? Speaking of Eddie, did you happen to see the video circulating online of him on a FaceTime call with Callum Peters? Eddie was pitching his interest to sign him to make him a global star. No, Eminem, but I have had a couple of people ask me about it. I haven't seen the footage. I suppose in that respect, if you were No Limit, you wouldn't be overly happy, would you? Because he's obviously signed with them. So you would think that Callum Peters firstly should have said to Eddie Hearn, well, go through my managers and my promoters. Eddie should have probably known better. But I think No Limit will make him a star, Eminem. I think they'll make him a star. They just need to match him a bit better, step him up a little bit quicker than they have. Excuse me, but I'm not sure Matt Rose and George Rose would be too impressed that Eddie Hearn is having FaceTime calls with one of their up-and-coming stars. So I've got no doubt that Eddie could make him a star, though, Eminem. But let's give No Limit a chance. They've done a great job with all the other fighters they've got, so let's give them an opportunity. All right, back with Drew. I'm getting through these comments. What is it there? Okay, I'll try and find it here. All right, I'm going to go back to the top and just go through them there, guys. I gave him $1. Hello, people of Australia. Hello to you there too, mate. Drew says, I have a weird hypothetical. If Jai Pataya was Jai Zhu and the son of Kostya, do you think he would have already had a few of those big title fights he's been yearning for? Good question there, Drew. Possibly. Yeah, possibly. Or would he? It's a good question. Well, it's not like there's an abundance of fighters around the weight, though, Drew. I mean, he's basically got, well, it was one, now he's got two. He's got Zerdo and now he's got Benavides. Yeah, actually, I'm not so sure that it would matter. I don't think it would. I don't think Benavides would really give a toss of what Jai's last name was, and Zerdo doesn't seem to care at all, either. Yeah, maybe. Look, the thing is, obviously, he'd be a No Limit fighter, wouldn't he? That's for sure. With the last name Zhu. Yeah, it's a good question though, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Zerdo or Benavides would be that impressed by fighting Jai if his last name was Zhu. I'm not sure, but it's a good question. All right, so still with Drew. I watched Wood pitch a complete near shutout against Warrington yesterday. I hate to say it, but Warrington should retire. He looked sloppy, slow, one-dimensional, and expired. Was a good fighter. He was a really good fighter. Drew used to like watching Warrington fight, but yeah, I'm with you. It was a shutout. I think Wood pretty much nearly won every round, didn't he? I'm not quite sure what the scorecards were, but it was pretty much a shutout. And look, Warrington tried hard, but it's a little bit like Shay Keneally with not knowing she's not at the level until she's obviously in there. I think Warrington was the same. I think he thought he had a little bit left, but didn't realise until he got in there that he just could not pull the trigger. Lee Wood, even though he's sort of getting on in his career as well, was just a lot sharper, a lot quicker, just beat him to the punch constantly, and he just couldn't get near him, could he? So not a great performance from Warrington. I think he should retire now and hang him up, and he'll go down as a really respected fighter in the in British boxing. But yeah, it was a disappointing fight, Drew. I thought it'd be a ripper fight. The first one sort of was a little bit controversial, I suppose, with the early stoppage. Apparently, I thought it was a good stoppage, but it was good of Lee Wood to give him a rematch. And yeah, he just didn't turn up yesterday, Drew. But he's had a great career, and he should hang him up now and go off into the sunset. All right, I'll get through some of these comments here. Eminem, surely no limit announcement this week. Well, I don't know what's happening, mate. I mean, it's 4 weeks away from the date that I thought it was going to be, which is March 22nd. Yeah, just under a month now. It would have been a month yesterday. So what is going on? So it doesn't look like it's going to be the 22nd of March. Again, I was told, I was adamant that it wasn't going to be the 29th. So maybe, look, who knows? Maybe they announce it this week. It's just going to be slapped together really quick. Who knows? But maybe they're going to push it out to April now. But I'm with you though, Eminem. I would have thought it would have been last week at the latest. So if it's not this week, I strongly doubt that it's going to be March 22nd. I mean, people have got to get organised. They've got to announce the card and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, if it's not this week, M&M, I've got a feeling they might push it out to April, but we'll see what happens. Naz, I wonder if all those like me who feel bad for Eddie will still feel that way if it ends up being true that Matchroom get Ortiz from Oscar on a 3-fight deal pending court case. Look, it's a little different situation though, Naz, because I've got no doubt that at least Oscar's going to be fully aware of the whole situation, and it would be right across everything. He'd be pissed off if Ortiz goes to Eddie. Of course he would. But at least he's going to be in the loop. He's going to know what's happening. The issue I've got with the Conor Benn situation, if it's all true, is that Conor Benn had his lawyer email Eddie out of the blue and say, just giving you the heads up that your fighter now belongs to Zuffa. So you can imagine how Eddie would feel about that. And that's why I have no respect for Conor Benn whatsoever. And I said this morning, as a piece of shit, and I stand by it. I just think it was a real dog's act what he did. But in this case, at least that all parties would be in the know. Oscar will be, as I said, fully across that Ortiz is going to leave him. I don't think Eddie is actually, well, maybe it's going to change it. Eddie is actually after Ortiz. I think he just wanted to have the ability to put the Boots Ennis fight on independent of Golden Boy. So they would be out of the loop and have nothing to do with it. I think that's what they were exploring in a legal sense. But as far as getting him on board, well, maybe he might. I would think, though, if Ortiz leaves Oscar, wouldn't he be a prime candidate for Zuffa as well? A free agent, the ideal person or ideal fighter that Zuffa and Dana White will be looking at, elite free agents who are arguably the best in their division. So imagine they've got Ortiz and Garcia. Usyk signs up. It's a lot of cattle in the stable, isn't it? But yeah, as I said, now it's a little bit different there. I think that at least everyone would be across it all. All right. What do you got there, Asbot? So maybe, what's that? The issue seems to be more that none of the other titles fighters want to step in the ring with him. Sorry, I think I've jumped one there. Sorry about that. Big J. I've also heard that Jacob NG might pull out of the Tim fight. Looks like being a punching bag for Tim isn't that appealing for him, plus the dollar amount probably isn't right. Well, mate, we still don't know. It hasn't actually been officially announced, has it? So did he ever have the fight? I've had a couple of very, very good sources tell me 100% he was the opponent. People that wanted to sort of stay anonymous but wanted to give me a little bit of a heads up. But it hasn't actually officially been announced. So maybe it was just talks. Maybe it was decided upon. Maybe they all agreed. Obviously, it hasn't been officially announced. And then, like you said there, maybe Jacob's management have said, look, you realise what's happening with the fight. Maybe they went back and asked for more money, and the promoter said, nah, not going to happen. It either takes that money or we go into somebody else. I don't know. But, yeah, he would be a punching bag. I think we all know that. So it depends on where Jacob NG sees himself. If he thinks he's going to be stuck here in Australia and not make good money at all, and he's not sure how long he's going to be in the sport, well, of course, take the money. But if he sees himself going up the ladder, getting ranked, all that sort of stuff, then it's probably a bad fight. Although Stevie Sparks seemed to recover okay, didn't he, when he fought Tim Tszyu? Got himself world ranked. But, yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't heard of him actually pulling out. But if that's what you heard, then I suppose it could be right. Yes, Shotgun Fight Week. Let's have a quick look at that card. That's on, is it Thursday? I think it is. I can't actually remember. I'll bring up the fight card. She's fighting Chanel Dargan, which will be an absolute barn burner. Let's have a look. All right, Shotgun, 26-8-1 against Chanel Dargan, who is 10-2-2. I didn't know she had that many fights. All right. The main event is Jason Malia and Marco Romeo, which will be a really good fight. I think Jason Malia wins the fight. I saw Marco Romeo's last fight against, who was it? Jason Fawcett. and it was really disappointing in that fight. So I think Jason Malia, who's a class fighter, I think he wins that fight pretty comfortably, Jason Malia. Who else is on that card? No one I really know. They've got is it Arlene Blencow, Nadia Falahi, Australian welterweight title fight. Alex Neyman against Emiliano Teixeira in a 10-rounder. So good to see that Chanel Dargan and Shannon O'Connell, by the way, is also over 10 rounds. I'm pretty sure it might be a WBO or IBF eliminator as well, or some sort of regional title. So should be good. It is on Triller, by the way, guys, live and free on Triller. So go and check that out. Just sign up. I think you've got to register or something, but the fight card is free. It is on Thursday night, this Thursday night at the Star in Sydney. So make sure you support Wanderer Promotions and get behind that one and give them some good numbers on the streaming services. All right, Drew, I somehow don't see Golden Boy going out of the way to match up Ryan versus Shakur. Rolly rematch or Haney rematch might be on the cards. Yeah, well, if you're looking at it that way, Drew, you're right. I think if Oscar was looking at getting, I suppose, Ryan the best possible fights that are, well, they're all risky, aren't they? Especially even with, obviously, Rolly and Haney, that I think Oscar would look at Shakur and go, geez, I'm not quite sure our man can beat Shakur. We know he can beat Haney. Pretty sure we can beat Rolly if he turns up this time. So, and they're obviously both big money fights as well. So maybe you're right there, Drew. Toady. What's the deal with Tyson Fury's father? Is it all show or is he really a big loudmouth buffhead? If that was my dad carrying on like that, Mum would have given him a right old clip around the ears. Oh, mate. Well, if you didn't know, of course, he carried on like an idiot at the Tyson Fury and Makhmedov press conference, wanted to fight Carl Froch. Apparently, Carl Froch has actually agreed to the fight. I watched his YouTube page the other day and he said, yep, I'm in. John Fury's apparently started training. Oh, my God, fair income. Surely someone will talk a bit of sense into John Fury. But, look, I'm pretty sure he's already had the conversation with Tony. This is Tyson Fury I'm talking about. I got a feeling Tyson Fury will talk to him again and say, hey, don't be an idiot. Pull out of this stupid fight. I'm not sure the promoters will put it on the card either, by the way. But he's in his 60s. He's just one of those fathers again, Tony, that just thinks it's all about him. And how many times do we see it? So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to give the guy too much bloody airtime, but he is a buffhead. And I'm with you, mate. If it was my dad too, I'd be wouldn't even rely on my mum. I'd be giving him a good talking to myself, I think, mate. So just a peanut. All right, Eminem. With Jai's Zuffa deal, how many fights would it be for you, do you think? Good question, Eminem. I would think it'd be 4 or 5 fights. Wouldn't it have to be? Maybe even 6. I'm not sure. I have no idea, Eminem. But you would think that it would be long term, and it probably depends on how you define long term. Is it 4 fights, 6 fights, 8 fights? I'm not sure. I would probably think 4 or 5 as at a guess. That'd be maybe, let's just say, a 5-fight deal for Jai Pataya, and I've got no doubt it's probably going to get paid. Well, it's not going to be Conor Benn money, you wouldn't have thought, unless it is. And if it is, I hope it is, because Jai deserves it a hell of a lot more than Conor Benn. At least he's a world champion. If it was a 5-fight deal, I reckon he could be around the mark of 4 or 5 million a fight, I'm probably thinking, so, which is still great money. But you would think that would be sort of what it would take for Jai to risk a lot against Zuffa. Because there's still no... I think the Branton fight is for the IBF belt, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be on the line going down the track, because this one's for the Zuffa belt as well. So who knows, once they get the Zuffa belt, then they might say to him, now you can just let that IBF belt go. Who knows? But I'd say it'd be significant money, Eminem. I'm guessing, say, 5 fights at about 4 or 5 million. Again, it's a guess. I hope it's more. I really do. Gave him $1. Clearly paranormal activity at the start of the show. Yeah, mate, I don't know what the hell happened. I'm sitting here before the show was about to begin, and the lights have started flashing. It was just flashing, like I was in a disco. And I'm like, was it going to blow or is it not? It didn't actually blow. It was just flashing, and then it stopped, and then it would come on. So I turned it off for a little bit, gave it a little bit, turned it back on, it was fine. And just before I came on, it started to flash again. So I turned it off, tried to organise the lights best I can. And then, as I said, the this thing here fell down and the lights wouldn't turn on. It was just all happening anyway, mate. So we're here now. We'll make the most of it. All right, Naz. Seeing Zuffa signed Andy Ruiz for mine. Yeah, I did see that actually, Naz. For mine, it confirms they have Usyk. I reckon they announce it within a couple of weeks. Surely that doesn't happen in the Zuffa garage. Well, the Jai fighters, isn't it there, Naz? I would strongly doubt it. But yeah, I did see that or hear that Andy Ruiz was being signed by Zuffa. I don't think that's a great signing, Naz. I mean, Ruiz, well, how often has he fought in the last few years? He always comes in pretty much out of shape most of the time. He had the one big win against Joshua and hasn't done anything since. So let's have a look. So his last fight was 18 months ago. Well, almost 18 months ago against Big Baby Miller, a draw. Before that, it was 2 years. So he's had one fight in 2.5 years. And before that actually was a 16-month absence as well. So if you go back, I mean, I know COVID was in there. So it's been, what is it? Oh, actually, it's been 18 months since he fought Big Baby. Before that was 2 years. Before that was 16 months. Before that was 17 months. And before that was a Joshua rematch. So it was 6 months later. So you may as well say since the second Anthony Joshua fight, he's had 3 fights in 6 years. 3 fights in 6 years. So look, if it's not costing them a lot, then maybe sign him. He's an ex-heavyweight champion. Put him on the payroll, put him in the stable, whatever it might be, and just adding names. Remember, they've got a lot of names they need to add to make out or to fill out their roster. So I get it, but hopefully it's not for a lot of money. And Alexander Usyk, I suppose, geez. So Usyk would turn down fighting Fabio Wardley, but would fight Andy Ruiz. I don't get it. But maybe if you are right there, Naz, and they're going to sign Usyk as well, then it might make sense. But I wouldn't be excited by Andy Ruiz versus Alexander Usyk at all. But as you say, there it could make sense being if they do both sign with Zuffa. There's Kane Mack in the chat. How are you there, mate? Also, Pound for Pound King. Thanks for joining in there, guys. Robert Rowan, a Jeff Fennick movie, he says. Do you think they will include the alleged jewelry store shoplifting incident? Well, maybe they might include a few of his indiscretions there, Robert. There was also, if you remember, there was the time he got glassed in the street or by someone. They glassed him. I remember he had the bandage on his head. There was when his bar or shop or something was firebombed as well. Then you got this, and I remember him being in an all-in brawl at a boxing event one night when Peter Matreski got chucked out on his head or landed on his head, and Jeff Fennick got in and went berserk. There's a lot of good things. I'd love to see if they put in the real estate incident, Robert, where it was only recent where they got a fake real estate guy to auction his house off out the front, and he almost became his next victim, didn't he? But yeah, I know it's only tongue-in-cheek there, Robert, but he did have a few indiscretions out the ring, did Jeff Fennick. I still love him though, Robert. Just a legend, Jeff Fennick. Yeah, Richard says the Zuffa garage. Drew, just a side note, the pronunciation of Zuffa is like saying Zuffa. All right, so it's not Zuffa, it's Zuffa. I don't care how you pronounce it, Drew. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Zuffa, all right? Maybe if Tim Tszyu signed with Zuffa, it'd be Tim Zuffa, wouldn't it? They could nickname him instead of the Phoenix. All right, Drew, rumor has it Wesley Snipes will be playing Jeff Fennick, Jackie Chan is Johnny Lewis, and Danny DeVito as Azuma Nelson. Very funny there, Drew. I like it. I gave him $1. I think Ben gets exposed against those top Americans. So who does he fight with being paid that much? Ben versus Garcia in the UK would be huge. But Ben loses by KO. Yeah, well, he's going to fight in May, I think. I gave him $1. But so you wouldn't have thought that Garcia will be ready to go again by May. What is it, only 3 months away? So it definitely won't be Garcia next. I would think that maybe the idea is that maybe Conor Benn fights in May against somebody. It's going to be in the UK. I don't know. It might be in someone's garage over there. Maybe it'll be in Carl Froch's garage or Joe Calzaghe, someone's garage. Maybe they could put it in Eddie Hearn's garage. I'm sure that'd go down well. So it will be in the UK. And then I would think they would look at Conor Benn then stepping up to fighting, hopefully, Ryan Garcia. I've got no doubt that is the plan. But as I said, Ryan Garcia did not even mention him yesterday, even though he was sitting at ringside. So I hope he didn't pay for those seats. It would have been a very expensive sort of exercise to not get caught up, wouldn't it? I'm sure he was given the tickets, of course. But, we'll see there, mate. But who does he fight? I'll be someone in the vicinity of the top 10, I would think. Well, I wouldn't have thought it'd be any top liner anyway. I don't think. It'll be a homecoming for him. Well, not really homecoming. His last fight was in the UK, but the headliner against maybe a B grade type of fighter or B level type of fighter, and then they'll look to step him up after that. Whether it's who did I say? Garcia. It could be, who knows? It could be Liam Paro for the IBF belt, or Crocker, of course. Could be Josh Kelly at 154. Lots to play out there, but you would think that probably a little bit like what they've done with Jai Pataya fighting Branton Glanton. Did I call him Branton before? Brendan Glanton. Fighting someone like him just to get his sort of foot in the door, and then they'll look to step him up against the winner of Zurdo and Ramirez after that, you would think. So. All right, Kane. Garcia looked in great shape and was looking very good, but it's very hard to KO a bloke who's very tough and knows how to survive. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Kane. I don't take anything away from Garcia for not being able to get him out of there. Sometimes guys obviously got great chins, but more importantly, they're cagey. Now, Gervonta Davis was able to break through the defense of Barrios and KM, but that was at a lot lesser weight, by the way. At welterweight, he'd be a lot stronger. I think his defense has probably improved a lot. He's very, very tight, very hard to get through. So, especially on top of that, if Ryan Garcia had the injured hand, yeah, I got no problem with it. I thought he looked great considering the opposition. I don't think anyone's sort of making assumptions that, Barrios, as I said before, was Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson. But, I mean, he's the WBC world champion and Garcia won every round. So I don't know how you can be critical. I think it was a career best performance. What's that? Dan. I'll just call you Dan there, mate. Is Jacob NG confirmed as Tim's next fight? And do you think it's a wise move to have a tune-up before the Spence fight? Is it a risk? And who is a good international opponent for Nikita's next fight? Good call there, Dan. It's not confirmed that he's Jacob NG is Tim's next fight, as Big J said before. He's heard that it might be off entirely, not that it's actually been announced. Is it wise to have a tune-up? I would think that Tim's been active enough in the last couple of years, Dan, that it's not needed at all. It is a risk, a big risk. I'm not sure Jacob NG is a big risk, but any fight with anyone is a risk because he could get injured, he could get cut. Not that Jacob NG is a massive puncher, especially at 154, so I doubt there's a possibility of getting KO'd or anything like that, but there is a chance of getting injured or cut. So I would not take the risk. When they look in the fight in, was it June or July? Geez, it's only, 3 or 4 months, or what's it, 4 months, maybe 5 months away. And Tim had a fight at the end of 2025. So it'll be a 6 or 7 month turnaround, which is what every other fighter does if they're lucky these days. Sometimes it's 10, 11, 12 months, sometimes beyond. So he doesn't need to have the fight. I think the only thing I can think of, Dan, is that it's all about just being a confidence builder, to get another confidence building fight under his belt. I think it's just purely about the mind games with Tim. Physically, he doesn't need one. I'm sure he'll be fine, but they know him better than what we do. And if they think he needs it, well, I suppose they'll give him a fight. But again, I don't see the sense. A good international opponent for Nikita. Good question. I don't think he's going to fight anyone in the top 10 yet, Dan, but if you go to and don't forget too, by the way, he's now ranked Where is he? Junior middle, 154. He's ranked, you may as well say, number 4 by the IBF. He's not ranked with the WBA or the WBC, I don't think. No, but he is ranked. No? That's, hang on, is it 160? What? Yeah, number 8 with the WBO. Where is he? He's not ranked by the others, I don't think. No, he's not. All right, so ranked it with 2 organisations at 2 different weights. So 8 with the WBO at 160 and 4, technically 6, but there's 2 unrated positions. So technically number 4 with the IBF. So who would he fight? If he's still going to be within the IBF, let's say. I mean, any of those guys, I don't really know any of these guys. If I'm being, well, they've got Ben Marnie there at number 12. That'd be a ripper fight, wouldn't it? But I don't think they're going to risk that by fighting each other. It's not a strong division, though. You got Wendy Toussaint at 15, Milan Pratt at 14, Andreas Katsarakis at 13, Bennett Mahoney at 12, Giovanni Santolin at 11, Frutus Roja at 10, 9 is Andriel Holmes, 8 is his brother Tim, 7 is Bakare Samake, I think that's how you pronounce it, and then you got Nikita. So where was the other one I was looking at as well? This, I didn't actually mention this the other day, but the WBA number 1 challenger at 154 is Pavel Sosilin. Now, Camille Bella was supposed to fight him, and he's had to pull out with an injury. So Victor Nagby is actually stepping in to fight Pavel Sosilin. I think that's how you pronounce it. So big chance for Victor Nagby to go into the top sort of probably 5 in the WBA if he wins. So pretty crazy. But I'm thinking any of those guys I just mentioned there, Dan, in anywhere between sort of 12 to 15, I would think would be not a bad opponent for Nikita. All beatable. Pound for pound, did you see Shakur's reaction backstage when he's seen how big Ryan is? Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though, wasn't it? I mean, Ryan, he's just like he just ballooned. I couldn't believe how small he looked in comparison to Mario Barrios at the weigh-in. But in the ring, he looked the bigger guy and stronger guy. So that's why I said before, I got no doubt he could probably go to 154 and carry the weight, no problem. So I think Shakur realises this is probably why he wants the fight at 144, by the way, catch weight, because he sees how big Ryan gets after the weigh-in. So, and he made Devin Haney look small as well, didn't he? So, as I said, you can sort of see why Shakur wants it at 144, not 147. I'm of the opinion, though, pound for pound, that if they do fight, don't worry about the catch weights. I know Shakur said we don't need no title, so we'll just fight at 144. Fight at 140 or 147. None of this in-between stuff. I don't like the catch weights. These are professional fighters in a weight division. Just fight where the maximum weight is and forget about this catch weight bullshit. All right. Andy, Shakur schools Ryan and Devin, in my opinion. That kid just next level, but would take Ryan versus Shakur or Ryan versus Conor Benn, all still entertaining fights. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I've got a feeling that Ryan would prefer the Shakur Stevenson fight, but as we said before, Oscar De La Hoya might have a different situation or different point of view in the situation. I think he would see Devin Haney as the more marketable fight. Shakur is the harder fight, but Devin is the more marketable fight considering their history. So that's why I think Oscar would be pushing for Ryan versus Devin, and then potentially Ryan versus Conor Benn. I think Shakur would be the fight they would maybe want in 2027. Depending on what happens with Shakur, of course. He might go up. Who knows? Shakur might want a belt before they fight. Devin's got one. Rolly's got one. Ryan's got one. Maybe if, or whether it's Liam Paro or Lewis Crocker, Shakur says, all right, that's a very winnable belt for me. I'm going to take one of those guys on, so I'll have the IBF belt. Imagine that. If you had Shakur with the IBF welterweight belt, you had Ryan with the WBC belt, Devin with the WBO belt, and Rolly Ramiro with the WBA belt. That's 4 pretty big names in the sport, isn't it? All with belts, all looking to fight each other. It'd be great. And then with the potential to go up to 154 with Fundora and Boots and Ortiz and maybe Tim and plenty of very good fighters at that weight. So a lot to play out over the next couple of years, I reckon. Big J, I'm playing Kerry Packer. Yeah, you'd probably make a good Kerry Packer, Big J, I reckon. Drew agrees. I think your big voice and booming presence would make a superb Kerry Packer. Yep. Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad one, Big J. I reckon you could even play his cornerman, Grantley Keezer, I reckon, Big J. You just need a pair of glasses, not your sunglasses, but your normal glasses, and you could shave the beard, and you could be Grantley Keezer. All right, Drew, Dana White has been deflecting multiple questions with the progress of Zuffa, and he keeps saying, judge us at the end of the year. This does not sound like a man who is confident in his product. Well, it could also mean the opposite, Drew. He might be thinking, well, say what you want about us now. I'm looking at the big prize. And at the end of the year, he'd be thinking we expect to have, I don't know, just hypothetically, we expect to have Usyk. We expect to have Ryan Garcia. We expect to have Virgil Ortiz. We expect to have, I don't know, maybe one of those lighter weight guys. Just probably trying to think who it could be. I'm just picking names here, but it could be, who are we looking at there? Is there anyone back in those weights? Obviously, Naoya Inoue, but he's not leaving Top Rank anytime soon. Actually, there's probably no one down around those weights, is there? So maybe not. But anyway, they might look at some of those lower weights and they might just stitch up a few. And he's probably got his whiteboard in his office with all the dream guys they would like to sign. And he's probably thinking by the end of the year, we would have had maybe 10 shows. We'll sign all these guys. We'll get out of our, the basement or the garage and go to one of the bigger stadiums. We might have half a dozen Zuffa champions, and away they go. So you got to look. The thing is, you got to have a game plan. You got to have a vision, and I think Dana White's the type of guy that would have exactly that. He wouldn't just be flying by the seat of his pants. I've got no doubt he would have his KPIs for where they want to be by the end of the year, and that's probably why he's not fazed by what anyone's saying or doing, because he's on the path to what he wants to do. So whether or not it happens or not is one thing. But I admire the guy. I'm not a massive fan of his, by the way, but I do admire him with what he's doing, with the vision he's got, and where he wants it to be. So, end of the year, we'll judge him then, I suppose. Mr. Gentleman, what do you got there? A good boxer doesn't need a promoter. A promoter needs a good boxer. A good boxer doesn't need a promoter. I beg to differ, Mr. Gentleman. I think they need each other just as much as each other. Look, if you've got a very, very good boxer and he's got a shit promoter, well, they're going to match him up against shit opponents who aren't going to progress his career. They're not going to probably pay him properly. So, on the flip side, going back, but he needs a good promoter. He has to have a good promoter or it just all falls apart. A promoter needs a good boxer. Well, yes, but it's not the be-all and end-all. We've seen plenty of promoters who are pretty prominent players go through stages where they don't have some good boxers on their books, and they put on great shows anyway. I think they need each other about the same, Mr. Gentleman. I don't agree with what you're saying there, that one is more important than the other. I think a good boxer needs a good promoter, and a good promoter needs a good boxer to fly the flag for their brand. And a good boxer needs the promoter to get the maximum out of their career. So, yeah, I don't agree with that, mate. But Naz loved seeing the white rhino Dave Allen get a W again. Great personality, self-deprecating and a funny guy, and gives hope to all of us with dad bods that we can achieve. Hope he gets a big title. I like watching him fight too, Naz. Yeah, I did see that. And he did the fake phone call, didn't he, from, was it Zuffa or whatever he was pretending to be? So, offer me, was it £30 million? I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying with my man, Eddie. So, another thing too with Conor, I didn't mention it before, but I did see another interview today where he said that Eddie's still his guy. He wants him involved. You know, he said, "Oh no, I want him part of the team." I mean, what's it going to be, mate? You literally stabbed the guy in the back, and now you want him part of your team? I'll say it again. Piece of shit, this guy is. Any news on Justice Hoodie? No, Richard. Sorry, mate. I got nothing. Nothing. Dan says, one from left field. How good can young Jagger Smith make the Carlton Blues this year? He can make them very good, Dan. Watch out for the Blue Baggers. This is not in regards to beating the Premiers last week in a practice match or scratch match, whatever the hell it was. This is just a good feeling across the board for the Blues, Dan. And I think that we've got a really good spread of talent this year. Not to say we're going to win the premiership or anything, but I think we're going to be a lot better than a lot of people thought we'd be. I think there was 9 new players that played the other day, and most of them will play round 1. Jagger Smith, what a gun. He'll be our Nick Dacos, I reckon, Dan. So very, very excited are we, us blue baggers, mate. Richard, Zoo versus Marnie would be a scrap, I reckon. Yes, to some extent, Rich. I don't think this is Tim, I'm assuming you're talking about. I don't think Tim Zoo and his team would want someone like Ben. Actually, I'll take that back. Tim wouldn't care who he fights. But I got a feeling that Tim's team would look at Ben Marnie and say, nah, he's a bit of a spoiler. He's talented, but he's a spoiler. He's not really a puncher or a boxer. He's sort of in between. He's not exciting. He's just all wrong. So I would think they would look at Ben Marnie and go, nah. And don't forget too, he's got a fight scheduled for April 23rd, is it? Actually, just let me... I don't think anything's been announced, but him and Jason Maloney are going to fight on the same card. Where are we? Sorry, I'll try and get his name right. That would help. All right. Didn't know he's had 17 fights, 16-0-1. So nah, it's not on the box rec at the moment, but him and Jason Maloney are fighting on the same card in April, mate. So it won't be him either. So Glenn, what do you got for us, Glenn? Evening all. Good card at the Star on Thursday night. I think Dargan is a special, and Shannon retires. I'm going to still back Shannon, Glenn, but tough fight. Chanel Dargan has improved a lot. She's a good fighter. I didn't realise she'd had as many fights as she had. What I say, 14 or 15 fights, whatever it was. Going to be a tough one. Shannon's under no illusions where she's at her career, though, mate, in this stage. So good luck to both girls. Chanel Dargan sees it as an opportunity to be world ranked. Shannon O'Connell sees it as a way of getting back in the mix and getting a name back out there for some big fights, especially if she gets that WBO regional belt. So plenty on the line for both girls. And I take my hat off to both girls who have said, look, we're not going to try and pad our records and fight ties or whatever it might be. We're going to fight each other, and the best woman wins, and they go on from there. So full credit to both women. Polly says, just want to make a statement that I really don't like the Zuffa trunk situation. I don't either, Polly. I think it's another case of just being too controlling. I mean, geez, it's one thing to have a certain structure in place, but just let the fighters have a personality. Let the fighters that like to express themselves through their outfits they wear and everything else, let them be themselves. It's one thing to have this in-house type of organisation with the belt and everything else, but geez, at least let the fighters sort of blossom a little bit. So yeah, I don't like it, Polly, not at all. Don't mind the look of that black belt, though. Yeah, I don't know. Polly, I wasn't a big rat for it. I'm just going to see if I can bring it up again. To me, it's just, I think I said in the one of the videos last week, that just looks like one of those sort of WWE belts used to buy your son back in the day. Where is it? Yeah, there it is. I can see it there. Yeah, well, yeah, it's okay, I suppose. Sort of black, grey, or black, silver, and some diamonds in it as well. So, yeah. So it's got Ali on the side, which is interesting. So, all right. Naz. Last time No Limit won a world title purse bid, we got about 2 weeks' notice for Janabek versus Mikhailovic. Yeah, well, that was a really weird one, Naz. You remember that? You're right. We did only get 2 weeks' notice because the fight got cancelled the year before when Janabek didn't make weight. Now he's obviously out because he's done drugs. But Mikhailovic, yeah, it was out of the blue. It was a really thrown together press conference. I think Janabek got to Australia, I think the night before the weigh-in. And then, obviously, it was just a glorified sparring practice or sparring session for him. But, geez, you would have thought, though, being such a big fight, though, Naz, this is not a thrown-together show like that. This is a proper show. And Tim Zoo's on the card as well. It's got to be this week, or it's got to. I would think that it would roll into April, surely. I'm just going to see, sometimes on social media... Where is it? I'm going to look up No limit. Sometimes they put up that there's an announcement. Sometimes it is a Tuesday they do it. Let me just have a look and see. Sometimes they put up an announcement coming. No, doesn't look like it. Okay. That's cool. All right, so nothing there. So normally it's on a, and they've actually still got, that's a bit weird. They've actually still got the Zuffa Bad Blood poster as the cover photo. So someone better tell them it was nearly a couple of months ago, and they still haven't changed the. Was it a couple of months ago? 5 weeks ago. 5 weeks ago. Time to change it, boys. We'll see though. Naz, let's hope it is this week. All right. Anyone watch the Frank Martin fight, which ended in a draw? Was never sold on Frank, and that fight confirmed my thoughts. Yeah, I thought he was a little lucky in the end, Glenn, to get the draw. I did comment on it this morning that the referee received a bit of feedback because, what's his name? Albright had an opportunity. Frank Martin had 2 opportunities to recover during the fight, but what they didn't see is that, didn't sort of realise, I think, that Albright was the one that spat out the mouth guard and the referee didn't have a choice but to stop the fight. I think it's a good example, Glenn, too, that I've been saying all along. If you lose your mouth guard during the round, you keep fighting until the end of the round and then it goes back to your corner. It's just stiff. If you spit it out, if it's knocked out, whatever it might be. I mean, how many times have we seen someone saved by spitting out their mouthpiece? So, yesterday, as I said, was a little bit odd because it was the one that was on the onslaught that actually lost their mouth guard. But yeah, I just think if you lose your guard during the round, stiff, you fight on. But I'm with you though, Frank. Not impressed, and I thought again it was lucky-ish to get the draw. What's that? Trumpy Black. Keep up the good work. Thanks very much, mate. Thanks for watching. Big J, can someone please explain to me how 2 old farts like Floyd and Tyson are going to fight in April? Why are these 2 clowns that should be in a jail cell continuously piss on the sport of boxing? Well, I'm not sure why they should be in a jail cell. Big J, have I missed something? Both have had their issues, no doubt, but Tyson served his time, and as far as I know, Floyd hasn't done anything that was worthy of going to jail. But I don't know. Why are these 2 clowns? How are they going to fight? Well, they're big names, Big J. That's all it comes down to, I suppose. They're big names, and they know they can generate massive numbers, and they're going to cash in. They'll probably get 50, 60 million, maybe more. Who knows? But, we're all going to tune in to watch it. Of course we will. I still think Floyd outboxes him, and Mike doesn't lay a hand on him or a glove on him, if you ask me. But that's the reason they put it together, Big J. I've got a feeling they've said to Floyd, look, do the Tyson exhibition. Manny can do the exhibition with Provodnikov, and then we'll put his in against each other at the end of the year. That's what I think the aim will be. What's that? Good to see you had a beard trim. Yeah, just a little one there, mate. Just a little one. Drew, I think the Zuffa shorts are a terrible, bland corporate move that drain all the atmosphere and nostalgia out of boxing moving forward. Yep, totally agree there, Drew. Ryan says, Carl Frosch is as big of a goose as anyone on the planet. John Fury is just getting clicks. Same in my opinion. Yeah, you might be right there, Ryan. What was Carl Frosch saying? The fighting man, he keeps saying. Look, I think it's been obviously a bit of back and forth between the two. They've both sort of run with it, sort of milked it for all it's worth. Carl Frosch has obviously got his social media stuff going now, so he probably sees it as an opportunity to get more subscribers and clicks and likes and all that sort of stuff. And John Fury, well, he just likes the attention, so he's going to do whatever he needs to for that to happen. All right, Glenn, there's absolutely nothing good about the Zuffa thing. Dana and the turkey are not the answer to any issues with world boxing. Well, I suppose the proof will be in the pudding as it goes on, Glenn. I don't know. I'm just totally still like in between. I don't know whether they're going to be good or they're going to be bad. Now, I've had to say right here and now what team I was on. I would definitely say I'm on team Oscar and Eddie and Frank and Bob and everyone on that other side. But going forward, I mean, as we said before, we'll see at the end of the year where they're at, or even the end of next year. Who knows? At the end of 2027, they could have a roster of 100 fighters. They could have 8 champions, and they could have regular fights going, and they could have some of the biggest names in the sport and fighting each other. So who knows? You might be saying, "Wow, this is awesome." I mean, when Turkey came into it, there was a lot of people a little bit skeptical about it as well. And then he took the sport off. I reckon he's come back a little bit since then, but still, there's a lot of doubts about him when he came in. Like, was this guy from Saudi Arabia? How's that going to work? Everyone knows the home of boxing is in the US and England, and other parts, obviously, but mainly the US and England. Who's this guy coming in from Saudi Arabia with all the money flushing around? That's not going to work. And it worked. Same thing being said about Dana. And as I said, I'm definitely team non-Zuffa. There is such a thing. If there's a team against Zuffa, I'm on that team. But I'm going to give it time. I'm not going to discount it or write it off. I want to see what it's like first at the end of this year, and then, of course, what it's like at the end of next year, and then I'll make my call. But all I can say is, though, Glenn, is when you've got Dana and Turkey involved together, you know it's going to work. It just will in some way. Whether they've got all the big names and everything else, but you know the events are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I've got a feeling that if the names aren't coming over to sign, you would think that Turkey will say, right, just ask them to name a figure and then just do it, no matter what it takes. Guys like Dana White and Turkey Al-Sheikh don't take no for an answer very often. I would think they would go to someone, I'm picking a name here, right, go to Usyk or Garcia and just say, find out what he's on with, say, Golden Boy. This is Ryan Garcia. If he's on 10 million a fight, offer him 20. Just get him over here. If this thing's going to work, offer him 20. And he's obviously going to go. So that's what I think will happen. I reckon at the moment they're trying to just go about their business and just attract the likes of Conor Benn and Jai Patara and these types of guys. But if the big names aren't coming over, you watch the figures just get ridiculous after that. So, but then the big question is how long is that sustainable for? In 5 years' time, they might have all the big names, but it can't be ongoing. They can't pay these guys that type of money forever. There's just not the money there. And surely at some stage, even with Turkey Al-Sheikh, the tap's going to have to be turned off as far as leaking money. So it's a sort of 50-50 type of thing, isn't it? Is that they'll make it work, they'll make it work as far as getting the big names over, but will it be sustainable for the long run? And then the other flip side is, of course, with that, is that once they get those big names over, of course, then all the others start to follow, and then they have a real solid competition where they don't then need to pay big money to get people over. So it'll be interesting, Glenn, but I'm an open book on the whole thing, and I'm going to give it a chance. At the end of the day, no matter what sort of side you're on, we're going to get great fights, whether you're with the Zuffa or the non-Zuffa promoters. We're going to get great fights, and they're going to be in competition with each other, and we're going to benefit out of it. So that's the good thing. What's that? Trump, are you hanging it on me? I think, was it you last time that got a bit lippy? I look like an electrician. Okay. All right. Some of your comments there. I think you're... All right. Okay. I'm just looking at some of your comments there. All right. Okay. All right. So just behave yourself, Trumpy, and we'll be all good. All right. Old mate, Big J. If anyone is wondering, Mayweather wasn't allowed into Australia to discuss a potential Mundine fight due to his domestic violence record. We all know what Tyson has done. Yeah, I get what you're saying there, Big J. Tyson obviously went to jail. Mundine has had some domestic violence. Well, he's had some allegations, Big J. I'm not sure whether he's actually been found guilty or definitely. Or did he do some jail time? I think he might have, didn't he? And that's why he wasn't allowed into Australia. Yeah, is it really should guys like that be just not allowed into Australia for that? Geez, there's some pretty ordinary people in Australia at the moment, Big J, that are allowed to be here that are actually legit criminals, and they're allowed to be here from other countries. So I'm not so sure that I don't condone what they did, obviously, but to say they're not allowed in, they're sportsmen who've stuffed up. But geez, as I said, there's some actual really hardcore criminals from other countries that are allowed to stay here with no dramas whatsoever. So, what's that? I gave him $1. I'm a Sparky trade, and some of my Sparky mates use it all the time. It's not an electrical issue. It's paranormal. Get a ghost hunter in first. Geez, don't say that, mate. I think I told you my story about the ghost thing when I went to Gettysburg was it a year ago, a year and a half ago, whatever it was. I think I've told the story, but I'm going to tell it again now. You brought up the paranormal and the ghost stories there, mate. But I was in Gettysburg. If you know, that's where the main battle of the Civil War was. The Confederates and the Union. and I stayed at a hotel. It was a beautiful old hotel right in the center square of the town, and you walk around the town and there's bullet holes in the buildings and cannonballs in the buildings, and I mean you can just feel the history in the air. I mean, I think everyone would know the Battle of Gettysburg, how famous it was. There's been movies made about it, and that was the central battle of the whole American Civil War. Found this really beautiful old hotel, and they had a few different options. I thought I'll stay up the top, right in the top attic, just up there by myself. Just beautiful little bed. Well, we didn't have breakfast. It was reminding me like a bed and breakfast type thing. It was like a house, really, but I stayed in there, and I remember I went on a ghost tour that night, and the tour guide said to me, "This is where they took you around the town and showed you different spots and where different things happened and some different ghost stories and whatever, and places been haunted." He said, and we got talking. He asked me where I was staying. I told him. He went, "Ooh, so what's that supposed to mean?" So, well, it's probably the most haunted hotel or haunted motel, hotel, whatever it is, inn, whatever it's called, in Gettysburg. And I was like, are you kidding me? I said, you did not have to tell me that, because I'm a real scaredy cat. And I didn't barely sleep or wink that night. I stood up there and it was pitch black in there. And I was in this little room in the attic, literally the attic of the hotel by myself, or the inn. And I pretty much had the covers right up here. And it was a pretty scary night. I barely slept, but I did see some YouTube videos after I did the search on YouTube, and they've had ghost hunters and some of the main shows on TV that do these type of shows, the paranormal hunters or whatever they are, the ghost hunters. A lot of them had specials, not only on the hotel I stayed at, but the room I stayed in. There was these two ghost hunters who stayed up there and went, yeah, no, we're out of here. So I stayed up there all night by myself. And if I had known that, there's no way I would have went near the joint. But I survived the night up there, mate. So I'm not going to let a flashing light deter me, mate. So all right, Naz, not a bad card. March 7th in Perth, featuring Kira Rushton and Billy Pokinghorn. Promoter is Pathway Promotions, who I've never heard of. That's a good one, Naz. I did see that, but I've never heard of them either. I'm going to type in, I'll just have a look at the card quickly, because I did see that was on one of the social media posts that someone sent me. All right, so Billy Pokinghorn is fighting Albert Pagara, 37-2. He's from the Philippines. Okay. All right, the rest of the card. So Kira Rushton is fighting Borden Pipu. That's an interesting name. Where's he from? From Thailand. Okay, 14-8 record. Well, I've got a feeling which way that's going to go. Don't really recognise anyone else on the card there, Naz, but still, Pathway Promotions. I've never heard of them, but another one to enter the equation. So good on them. I know, obviously, Dragonfire sort of dominate things over there, but I'm assuming that Pathways entered in to give them a bit of a run, I suppose. So it's at the Perth Convention Centre, Saturday, 7th of March. So if you're in Perth, go check it out. You reckon Zuffa will sign me versus the chump McAllister? Good payday, I reckon, says Big J. Yes. No Limit must be happy. Matchroom putting on 7 shows, 3 pay-per-views. What's your thinks? Well, yeah, 7 shows. It was obviously reported that it was 8 there, Trumpy, but now it looks like it's going to be 7. I still got my doubts on who they actually put on the shows, though. That's the big question mark for me, because apart from Sky Nicholson, maybe George Kambosos, Jake Wiley, they haven't really got a lot of headliners. I know there'll be no shortage of fighters they can put on the undercards. That's no problem. But as far as the main events, I'm not sure that Jake Wiley could probably carry a card, especially a pay-per-view. George Kambosos could. I don't think people would pay, or would they pay to see Sky Nicholson? Would you guys pay to see Sky Nicholson in a pay-per-view? Not so sure that would sell, but give me your thoughts. Great for Australian boxing, though, Trumpy. It is fantastic to have Matchroom involved. Again, it just adds to what's going on over here. I think to have them well, I was going to say in competition with No Limit. I'm almost hoping they actually work together and share some fighters around and whatever it might be. I don't think it's going to be the case, because promoters can never really work together nicely. But I would hope that they might have their own stuff, but just every now and then do a cross promotion or whatever it might be. Richard, Jeff Fennick, was also at the AFL Grand Final motorcade when Angry Anderson sung Bound for Glory in the Batmobile. What a day that was, Richard. What was that? The Hawthorn and West Coast Grand Final out at Waverley, wasn't it? In the Batmobile, and Angry Anderson. I used to love that song, but yep, he was in the Batmobile, I think with Lionel Rose from memory, Richard. Thanks, Big J. Happy birthday to Tara. Thanks very much, mate. I'm sure she'll appreciate that. Glenn says, I haven't seen it, but apparently Shay Keneally got iced today on the undercard of Clarissa Shields fight. KO of the year potential, I was told. Maybe for the women, Glenn. Yeah, maybe for the women it might be in the KO over the year category or the in the running. It was a good shot. I think she sort of hit her with a left. Was it southpaw? I think it was it a left? Was he a southpaw? I can't remember, but it was a left hand first that sort of rocked her. Then it was a right hook that put her down, or a sneaky little overhand right put her down. But it was a great shot, and you don't normally see that too often when you see a female boxer really go down like that. The legs buckled. She sort of went down face first. Got up, but with the blood and everything there, the referee made a good call to stop it. But she was game, mate. She was very, very game. Showed a lot of heart, and she'll be back. So, just she has to learn from it. I think the main thing is not to be all disappointed about. I mean, she's going to be disappointed, but don't get it to the point where you're down on yourself and you doubt yourself. She's got to get back in the gym and just get better. Because that's the level she's got to get to. Well, past that level, because you've got to remember Perkins was schooled by Clarissa Shields a year ago. So, Naz, only reason Zuffa signed Ruiz is for an American opponent for Usyk. Yeah, maybe. But wouldn't you have thought that Deontay Wilder probably would have been a better one? I know he's fighting Chisora. I would have thought that Wilder would have been a good fit for Zuffa, especially to fight Usyk. But you're right, Andy Ruiz does make sense. Because there's not actually a lot getting around in the heavyweight division, is there, in the American side of things? I mean, they've got... Let's have a quick look. I mean, you've got... Well, Richard Torres maybe. Could maybe put his hand up. I'm talking about the ones with half a name, I suppose. Jeez, it's pretty bare, isn't it? Shit. Big baby Anderson, I suppose. Was it Anderson or Miller? Anderson was the one that fought the other week. Jermaine Franklin's fighting a timer coming up. Although, is he American? I can't remember. Yeah, pretty slim pickings there. Now, as you talk about big names, it was either Ruiz or Wilder, wasn't it? What has happened to American heavyweight boxing? I mean, I remember back in the day, well, it was just all the Americans and the English. There was no Europeans in there, well, no Russians and all that sort of stuff because they weren't allowed to back then. But the English would every now and then serve up someone that would get KO'd by an American heavyweight champion. But to think that there's no Americans even in the ballpark at the moment. That's pretty crazy. I remember there was a massive drought with English heavyweight champions. Actually, had there been one? I'm not sure that there'd even been one up to that point. Until I remember Frank Bruno had numerous attempts up until that point. Henry Cooper had a crack. There'd been numerous others, but just a drought or either a drought or they'd never had a heavyweight champion. But yeah, it's just these days with the Americans, not even in the game. Trumpy says, Steve NG Chinham Stone. Yep. You're obviously an Aussie there, Trumpy, or at least a Queensland or something up there, aren't you? Because he's based up there and he's the father of Jacob, isn't he? So runs a very, very good gym up there too, from what I hear. Jai versus Usyk is a possible scenario. Depending on if Usyk hangs around that long, Dana plans 2 years ahead. I've got a feeling Usyk might be gone by the time Jai gets there, Ryan. Look, a lot might also depend on what happens with Jai, with Benavidez and Zerto. For me, the fight for Jai is Benavidez. I think he'll beat Zerto. And for me, that is the big super fight. Again, if Beterbiev or Bivol into the equation, that makes the waters a little bit more muddied with what Benavidez wants to do. I'm almost hoping that Bivol, it looks like he's going to fight Efit next. Almost better if like Beterbiev maybe retires or he fights Bivol or whatever it might be. And Benavidez says, you know what, there's really nothing for me at 175, at least in the short term. I'm going to go up or stay up at cruiserweight and fight Jai because that is one of the best, if not the best fight to make in boxing. And Jai versus Usyk, I've just got a feeling that Usyk's, I mean, what's he said? He's got 3 or 4 more fights to go. If Ruiz is one of those guys, You throw in Deontay Wilder if he beats Chisora would definitely be in the mix because obviously they've been talking about it already. Then you got the winner of, well, I was going to say the winner of Dubois and Wardley, but I think if Dubois wins, Usyk could say, "Well, keep your belt. I'm not interested in it." If Wardley wins, you would have to put him in the mix. Moses Otama would definitely by that stage be in the mix. What else have we got? There's at least 4 guys that I think would be in front of Jai, so that almost sees him out, doesn't it? But you never know. You never know. Drew, Huni fighting Gallen cost him a spot on the Olympic team due to injury. Given Tim's chaotic recent history, taking a tune-up before an already inactive Spence seems unwise. I'm with you, Drew. I think Huni was a little bit along the lines of as well that he was prepared to take the risk. I don't think Dean Loningham was that, and Mick Francis was that stressed about just going to the Olympics. I think it was more about just getting into the pro ranks, making some coin, getting a few fights under his belt. But you're right, the Gallen fight did sort of blow any potential he had of going. I think, wasn't that actually, I'm just thinking back, I think it might have been the case he was supposed to fight Gallen and then go, wasn't he? But he fought Gallen, got injured, and then didn't go at all. So, but I think they were willing to take the risk. All right, Shadow Boxer. In the final week of cutting weight, are you still running, bad work, etc.? I asked because I just finished a 4-day fast and on day 3 went to a boxing to do bag work and could barely get through 3 rounds. They normally cut weight as the very last thing, Shadow Boxer. I don't like doing it that way. I think I've said on here a few times, I was only an amateur, so it's a little bit different. We're only fighting 3, well, it was 3, it was 4, it was 5 rounds at different times, but you could sort of get away with it. The hard thing about cutting away as an amateur at the tournament is you got to do it every single day you fight, which was a little bit hard. But these guys, it's a little bit different because obviously they're fighting 10 or 12 rounds, but they would cut weight a lot differently. I'm just looking at your question there. So, yeah, so as far as running and back, yeah, you are. You're pretty much a week out. What they do is they just really cut back the intensity. So they still do just basic stuff for the pads, but they just take the intensity out so they're not getting sore. Obviously, no risk of injury. They're still running a course, and most of them will get within, well, on an average, I would probably say 4 or 5 kilos out from the weight the day before, and then they cut the whole weight that day before the weigh-in, and then they go weigh in. So others do it a lot better, but that seems to be the sort of average as far as I know. Is probably 4 to 5 kilos to cut in the day before the fight. So because in some of these title fights as well, they've got to weigh in a week before. I would think even with that they'd go back down, and then they would sort of come back up a little bit to get through that final week of training, and then, as I said, that last day before the weigh-in, they would just cut. And you'd be surprised, Shadow Boxer, how easy it is to lose 4 or 5 kilos very, very quickly. It's all liquid. I think I've said on here before as well that let's say you're 4 kilos over the day before the weigh-in. You get up, you would put on the sweatsuit, you would do more of a cardio type of thing, nothing hard on the pads or something. You might go for a run first to get the sweat, get the sort of pores open and get the juices flowing. Then you do some pad work, and then after that you would go in the sauna. You'd go or in a heated bath. A lot of them get wrapped up. You see the UFC fighters do it a lot too. They'll wrap themselves up in plastic bags and all this sort of stuff, and just sit there for a couple of hours and get fed ice cubes and all this sort of stuff. But I think if you did a half decent workout as far as its cardio goes, and then the sauna and the sweatsuit and all that sort of stuff, you could probably lose 3 kilos straight off the bat. And then you go to bed. You don't lose a lot because you're already dehydrated, but you might get up. You might only be half a kilo over, and then you lose the last half a kilo, and away you go. You just got to probably turn on or shut the doors with the bathroom and block up any openings under the door or windows or whatever it might be, and turn on the hot water, and you have yourself a little sauna or sit in the bath or whatever it might be. You'd be surprised how quickly you can lose weight. Up to 5 kilos in a day, I would think, no problem. Some of them probably lose even more. I see some of the UFC fighters lose up to about 8, which I think is ridiculous. So it's a little bit different, Shadow Boxer. They've got to keep strong right up to the last bit. They would gradually come down over the weeks, but I would think, depends on what weight they are as well, but I'm thinking if you're from one, say, 40 up to, one, say, 75, you would, or maybe 160, you would try and be at the start of fight week, maybe 5, 6, 7, and by the day before the weigh-in, you're within 4. I would think 4, maybe 5, and just slowly cut down your food and everything during the week. And then you eat just enough to maintain your strength, to be able to train. That's what they do. So it's a little bit different to what you're doing there, mate, especially coming off a fast. Anyone would react the same as what you've done, but they just get used to it and they know where they're at. So they'll just come down gradually to where they have points where they want to be during the training, and it'll all go into being 4 to 5 kilos over the day before the weigh-in, and then it'll just be a piece of piss. I think I've said on here before as well, I would normally be, if I was 3 kilos over the day before the weigh-in, we weighed in the morning, by the way, these guys. Well, actually, they do weigh in the morning, don't they? And then the ceremonial weigh-in is at lunchtime, wherever it is. But I'd be 3 kilos over the day before the weigh-in. Same thing, the session with the suit on, in the sauna, and I'd go to bed on weight. That was just me, and I fought at 147. But I'd walk around at about 160, 162, something like that. So I didn't have a hell of a lot to lose in comparison to what a lot of people. That was just my natural weight, was about 162, maybe a little bit less. I'm just trying to think. Hang on, what was I? Sorry to take up all this time doing this stuff, but I'm just trying to see where I was. About 160. I'd walk around about 160. So even though it sounds like it's 13 pounds, it's 6 kilos, whatever it might be. But the 6 kilos would come off over the journey, and I'd be 3 kilos before, and then it was sweet. So anyway, we'll move on. I'm probably way behind here, am I? Richard, Dana bought the UFC when they were both about to turn the lights off. When they were about to turn the lights off. In saying that, MMA didn't have the competition of promotions like boxing has, but fair effort. Yeah, well, look, you got to give Dana his full respect for that, Richard. He had an organisation that was pretty much kaput, or the MMA, whatever it was, and he took it to just unbelievable levels. And now he's looking to do the same with boxing, but that's where my doubt is, though, is that this is not the UFC that has no competition. Boxing is established, and there are lots of not just competitors, but real hard bastards when it comes to the business goes. Eddie and Oscar and Bob and Frank, all very, very seasoned guys, and very big egos, and they're not going to lie down easy, I can tell you. All right, Naz, I was surprised the other day to see how much bigger Zerto is than Benavides. I thought they'd be similar after both starting at 168. Yeah, I think, though, I've got a feeling looking at the two, though, Naz, Benavides looked in pretty good condition. Zerto looked like he just let himself go. So he's got a lot of work to do. Big guy, though, I will say. But, yeah, you could just see by his face it was quite chubby. So he must put on a lot of weight. You can just see how much weight he would have probably lost getting down to 168 over the journey. And look, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was the same. Remember, he used to really blow up as well. A lot of them do, but Benavides looks like he keeps himself in good nick. Zerto, not so much. All right, Andy, I think one thing about Zuffa, though, is they're not letting existing sanctioning bodies get the traditional treatment if doing business with them. Now, travel, hotels, ringside tickets, let alone into the ring. And there you go. Yeah, and I did see, not that it was a Zuffa show, but even on the weekend, you've seen even with the Ring magazine shows now, you see little Ring Rick there with his ring belt. You don't see anyone in there with a WBC belt. I know they presented it after the fight to Ryan. They put the hat on and the T-shirt and all that sort of stuff, but there's no emphasis on the belt. I did see Mauricio Suleiman in the ring, but I've got a feeling when it comes to Zuffa, they're just going to say, no, okay, we might be fighting for your belt, but doesn't mean we're going to roll out the red carpet and allow you, like you said, in the ring and all this sort of stuff, which I don't think it'll go down well. At some stage, I think they're going to come to a head on what's happening. So they're not taking any shit though, Andy. That's for sure, are they? All right. Andy, makes me wonder how the heck is Jai supposed to achieve undisputed if Dana or Zuffa not giving out the usual treatment? Well, look, I think one of the conditions on Jai signing with Dana and Zuffa would be he would say, look, I want the opportunity to fight for undisputed. And maybe Dana said, hey, look, all right, in the first couple of years, we'll play ball with everyone. We'll play the game, allow to get these fighters over to us. We'll let them do their thing and then hopefully slowly phase out their belts. I mean, they might have said to Jai, okay, we'll let you get the undisputed, throw the Zuffa fight, the belt in there. But I would think as they get more established, when fighters are actually going to them to want to join, they're going to be saying that's great, but you've got to give up your belt. I think at the moment they're making a lot of concessions to try and get these guys over. Jai especially, because I don't think he would have went if Dana had said, well, mate, you can come over, we'll pay you well, but you got to give up your belt. I think Jai would have said, thanks, Mr. White, but no thanks, because he's very adamant that's what he wants to do. So I just think Dana and Zuffa will play ball for a year or two, and then they'll start phasing them out. And once they get more popular and bigger and more powerful, as I said, I think when fighters are going to them, they'll say, that's great, but the condition is you give up the belt. You fight for our belt. So, Drew, dream matchup, Hagler Monzon, Prime versus Prime, who wins? I'm going to go for our man Hagler Drew. Yep. Big fan. Hagler and Monzon was brilliant, wasn't he? Glenn fancies Monzon. Okay. Glenn says, yeah, I think Monzon's control of distance gives him the edge. Yeah, mate, it would be a great fight though, wouldn't it? Yep, fixed the lighting. I'm used to it now, I suppose. Big J, I'll take the role of Packer for the Fennec movie. I'll have to fatten up though. Okay. G'day, Adam. How you going, mate? Great to have you along. I better get the move on here, shouldn't I? What's that? I'm in Perth, says Polly, and saw a poster for that Pathway card today. I like poking horn, so I'm looking forward to getting along. Yeah, get along, Polly. It should be a great night. Support boxing over there, and includes Dragonfire as well. Old mate agrees with Glenn concerning Zuffa. I don't see it lasting more than a couple of years. Was it like I said last week? It looks too familiar to WCW in the 90s. Zuffa won't see 2028. Yeah, it's a good call, big mate. Well, sorry, old mate, Big J. Sorry. Glenn says take the initial money out of Zuffa, and it basically offers nothing. Yep. Yeah, I don't think they would have any. I doubt they would have Conor Benn or Jai Pataya if they didn't throw all sorts of money at him, Glenn. So, yeah, I agree with that. Ryan, UFC doesn't have competition because Dana bought them out. He's looking to do the same in boxing. Yeah, it's a good call. Look, I'm not really familiar with the whole UFC thing, Ryan. I just remember, I didn't know anything about MMA until the UFC came along. I remember the first few shows when I think there was no weight divisions or anything, was there? And you could have guys in judo, other gis, I think they call them, and others dressed in other ways. And it was it was the ultimate fighting championship, wasn't it? So I didn't realise that he bought them out. But I think what he would have went to him and said, all right, this is what's happening. They would have seen probably the writing on the wall. And Dana's gone to him and said, all right, well, see you later. And they've just taken it and gone. I mean, the UFC is basically the real life WWE, isn't it? Really, when you think about it. It's run the same way. I suppose you could even say it has this sort of similar characters as the WWE does without actually having character names. I mean, they're all different characters in their own way, and the way the whole competition is run and the rating system and all that sort of stuff. And the one event sort of sets up the next event and all that sort of stuff, I think. And they almost have storylines involved, not fake ones like the WWE. And I'm sorry if I've just offended wrestling fans by calling it fake. It's entertainment, as the name says. But it's really just a real life UFC, isn't it? WWE, isn't it, Ryan? So, and one thing you can't take away from the UFC and Dana White especially is that they run a great organisation and they can show boxing so many things. I mean, obviously the problem with boxing is that it's just sort of evolved over the years and there's been breakaways and things added, and it's just a bit of a Frankenstein sport, and it probably always will be. But the UFC is a streamlined type of organisation, and I think we'd all agree that it would be great to have a boxing style UFC competition, a UFC style boxing competition, which is what Zuffa is supposed to be. But I struggle to see how it's going to work when you've got a go-getter in Eddie, a go-getter in Oscar De La Hoya. You've got the old stalwarts in Frank Warren and Bob Arum. You've got PBC out there doing the things as well. I said all along, I think it'll work. I just don't know how well and how much of the boxing side of things, the sport, that they will swallow up and control. Because while Eddie and Oscar and all those others are out there. They simply can't control it all and have all the elite fighters because they'll all be with other promoters. So, all right, Shadow Boxer. How often do you train these days? I actually train 5 days a week, Shadow Boxer. Nothing too hard, but I do 10 3-minute rounds from Monday to Friday. A bit of a tip to anyone out there. I've said on here before anyway. A bit of a tip to anyone out there that likes to do a bit of training. The tip is, or the hint or advice, whatever you might want to call it, is don't hit the bags hard. Okay, because when you're around 50 years of age, like I am, you might train one day and you need 3 days off to recover. Focus more on the work rate rather than power. Don't hit the bags hard because, as I said, you'll be 1 on 3 off. So do it for a bit of fun, even if you're not feeling that great. Still train, but just do it to how your body's feeling. Don't try and push through and go harder than what you feel like. So if you're not really feeling it, then your workout should should reflect how you're feeling. I've had times where I've had a long day. I've been on the road. I've come home. I just cannot be bothered. So I just go on the bags and just start really slow and just sort of go through the motions, I suppose. By the end of it, I feel great, glad I did it, and I get my mojo back. Other days might be a bit sore, but I just, as I said, just train how I feel. But the secret, don't hit the bags hard. Just go for work rate, not power. So Richard, do you still go for runs? Hell no, Richard. I haven't run for nearly 28 years. I always vowed that once I finished boxing, mate, I would never run again. I was never a good runner. I only did it because I had to. I used to run 5 days a week, but I hated it. I was never good at it. I was never good at swimming, never good at bike riding, but I had to do it all. Hated weights as well, but I had to do that as well. But especially running, mate, I used to hate it. And because I've got sort of chunky little legs, I used to always get shin splints as well. That I used to hate as well. So, and it didn't have the flash runners I have these days as well. So I always got shin splints. I hated it. Richard, Dana said years ago that he would never get involved in boxing, and now here we are. Well, I've got a feeling that someone like Turki Al-Sheikh has probably said to him, and they probably had conversations or whatever it might be, that Turki said, look, I wouldn't mind. Or maybe Dana said to Turki, geez, I wonder how the UFC concept would work in boxing. And Turki Al-Sheikh said, well, if you want to have a go, I'm going to back you, and this is where we're at. It's worth a punt, Richard. It's worth a punt. And he did start as a boxing promoter, Richard, or a wannabe boxing promoter, and was always shunned and treated badly. So he went to UFC instead, or MMA instead. And look what he did with that. So seems pretty confident he's gonna get it done though. So how can you doubt Dana White? We'll see. All right. Keep caution. Okay, what do you got there, mate? There seems to be a great deal of concern regarding Zuffa. Lots of people seem fearful. Yeah, they do. They're, mate. I'm not fearful. I'm just very curious to see how it's all going to pan out because I hope it works. I really do, but I just don't see how it's going to work with those other guys out there. If there was no Oscar, there was no Eddie, you would think, yeah, well, Frank Warren's okay, he's sort of on the downside, and I know his son's sort of involved now, but he's really no big sort of heavy hitter in the industry at the moment. Then you've got Top Rank. We don't know where they're at. PBC seems to be on the way out. If it wasn't for Oscar and Eddie, I would be saying I would fully expect Dana to clean out boxing and have a great organisation. But there's no way Eddie and Oscar, especially Eddie Hearn, is going to just roll over and just be taken over. Oscar's an interesting one because he's running out of good fighters. At least Eddie seems to still... I mean, look at the amount of shows they've got. They've got a great broadcast partner in DAZN who seems to keep investing in them. They've got shows like... I think, did he say he's got like... Is it 40 shows a year or something? It's a lot of shows. So it's almost one a week they're doing. So they're all over the place at the moment. So, and they're going to keep investing in them. Eddie seems like the type of guy who just wants to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So while Eddie and Oscar are there, I don't see how Zuffa takes over. But I have also no doubt, as I've said numerous times, that it will be a success in some way because it's Dana White after all. All right, Ryan. Okay, you disagree. Eddie Hearn will be working for Dana in 5 years, or he'll go bust. Max Kellerman got on board early. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Max Kellerman. I think he puts a lipstick on every time, doesn't he, to pucker up to kiss all their asses, doesn't he? Oh, Max, can you believe what he was saying on that first Zuffa telecast? How he's waited his whole life for this. I mean, it was pretty putrid. And didn't the comparison of Callum Walsh to Ryan, not Ryan, who was it? Roy Jones Jr. I mean, come on. I don't think he'll be working for Dana, mate. Look, they're a pretty big business, Matchroom, not just boxing, but they've got the darts and the snooker and all that sort of, or the pool, whatever it is. So they're a pretty big operation, Ryan. I think Eddie Hearn would rather go into something else rather than work for Dana. I don't know. I just think Matchroom is still way big enough to compete with Zuffa. Who's to say, by the way, that DAZN doesn't come back to Eddie and say, all right, well, Zuffa's got, Dana and Zuffa have got Paramount. They're in Turkey, obviously. We need to invest in our brand going forward. So they need Eddie Hearn. And I can't believe still, by the way, they haven't signed Oscar up. But anyway, I'm sure that'll pan out. But with Eddie, they need him. So at what point did DAZN go to Eddie and say, all right, well, we need to not only keep our existing talent, but we need to maybe get some fighters from other promoters as well, including Zuffa, get them back. What's it going to cost us? So maybe Eddie says, all right, well, we're going to have to up what we're being normally paying these guys by 30, 40, 50%. And DAZN might do the sums and say, okay, well, if we're going to survive as a broadcasting network, we need to invest another $50 million a year into boxing, and that means Eddie Hearn, so we can keep the relevant fighters and attract more fighters. It's just a whole merry-go-round thing, but I just cannot see Eddie Hearn / DAZN just rolling over for Dana. I can't see it. Keep Caution says Eddie might have declared war prematurely. Zuffa overpaid for Conor Benn just to spite Matchroom. Yeah, maybe. Although, I don't know. I've got a feeling that Dana White doesn't really rate Eddie or Oscar enough. I mean, he keeps referring to them as babies and fighting babies. I don't think he respects them enough to think he has to overpay or to go to those lengths to get someone like Conor Benn. I just got no doubt they would have sat down and went, all right, who are some of the ones that are on the fringe of having their contracts expire or have expired? All right, just go out and just get them. Just get them. You know, they might have said, what's Conor Benn on? Well, he's on 5. All right, offer him 10. Offer him 15, whatever it might have been. I'm not sure the exact numbers. I don't think anyone is, but it was 8 figures. So I don't think he overpaid just to spite Matchroom. I just reckon that Conor Benn fit the mold, and they went, well, just go get him. Do whatever it takes. And Conor Benn doing it for the children, as he keeps saying, or his children, and just whatever they offered, he was always going to take. So, and I don't begrudge Conor Benn, by the way, of doing what he has to look after his family. I just don't like the way he went about it. Anyway. All right, last one from Ryan. There will be so many Aussie boxers heading to Zuffa for an opportunity. Young boxers will sign, leaves crumbs for other promoters. Well, they've said is it 100 or 200 fighters they need, Ryan? I can't remember exactly the amount they were talking about, but if they're going to do, well, what's it going to be, 12 shows a year? So they have 7 fights, I suppose. What's that, 14 times, we'll do the sums here. Let's say 14 fighters on a card. Let's say even 16 fighters on a card times 12 cards. So that's 192. So 200 fighters they probably need, because obviously they'll rotate a few of them around. So let's say they want 200 fighters. Well, yeah, they've got to get them from somewhere. And they might come over and sign the likes of, say, Dylan Biggs here in Australia. Won the WBC Grand Prix, obviously. And then you got someone like I'm going to say Shannon O'Connell, Cooper O'Connell. All these types of guys. They might monitor the likes of Callum Peters and all these guys very, very closely. I'm sure they've got their spies out, and then wait till the opportunity comes and then go bang and do it over the next couple of years. But 200 fighters is a lot of fighters. But what have they got now? Probably 20 or 30, I suppose. So it'll come about really, really quickly. All right, guys. Well, having said that, that is going to do it for tonight. We are right on 9 o'clock. So apologies again about the lighting. I think it's sort of come good. The camera seems to have adjusted to it okay. But yeah, apologies about that and the lack of intro and all that. But I'll get it right for next week. So, guys, make sure you check out Walking Boxing every morning. Normally up by, I was going to say it's normally 10:30 or 11. It's been more like lunchtime lately with the, I don't know what's going on with our network, but it's taking an extra hour to upload, which is not really good, but it pisses me off a little bit, but it is what it is. So I'll try and get it up as early as I can. But watch that and other stuff that I'll be doing in the future as well. So guys, have an awesome Monday. We'll catch you next week on Talking Boxing.